So, how big a litmus test was that yesterday, given who New Orleans was playing, who New Orleans had on the court? You know, like how impressive is that win in terms? I know it's the first win, but
I th-
go ahead.
they needed a win. It was a second leg of a back-to-back. Weird travel situation from Detroit to New Orleans in the first week of the season. You got to get that win. You could tell like Jalen Brown was a little banged up with the hamstring, played on the second leg of a back-to-back. You could tell there was just some urgency there to get a win. It didn't matter who it was. Is that Pelicans team going to end up, winning 50 games? No, no, they're pretty bad. The backcourt of Jordan Poole and Jeremiah Fears is as unserious as it gets in the NBA. The the Pelicans are right now the only team worse at defensive rebounding than the Celtics. So it wasn't the most impressive win, but on the second leg of a back to back, like just a really necessary win. If you go 0-4 there with the Cavaliers coming up on Wednesday, then the 76ers and the Rockets, like you're staring at 0-7. And so it was a big win, even though it wasn't the most impressive win.
This is all about discovering the roster as far as Joe Mazzulla is concerned. He's lost a lot of good players from last year. So, Jay, I know it's a small sample size. It's only 4 games. But what do you think Joe has figured out here in the early going about his team?
It's hard to tell because you think he figured out something with Ugo Gonzalez, then he doesn't play last night. You think he figured something out with Josh Minot over preseason, even he sits the second game of the regular season before starting last night. I think Joe is just kind of in experimental mode. He's gonna throw these guys in there, take them out, see what works, and I do think Minot is going to be a part of the solution for the Celtics. They need his athleticism, they need his length, they need his help on the glass. Ugo Gonzalez, I do think he's going to end up helping. Like he's 19 years old, certainly not the most polished offensive player, but the level of energy he plays with, the ability to pick up full court and pester guys, they're going to need that the way they want to play. So I think that's what he's found so far. As far as anything else, like they're going to really rely on their top guys because there's not a whole lot of depth behind them,
Can
at
we
least as playmaking goes.
can we get mad at Gonzalez for not being called Hugo? Or I mean, insisting on that H being silent because that's very frustrating. J. King, you have to admit he's going to make a lot of announcers look very bad.
See, I think Ugo is way better than Hugo.
Well, I agree, but I mean,
Yeah.
then just for the sake of everyone, just take the H out, and then you could be Hugo, which people will associate with a bad car, which is good for your brand. So there you go. I don't know. Maybe
I'm
he
all,
wins.
all on board with Ugo.
Ugo, you go full court, Ugo. You make up the pressure. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Jay, in the early going of training camp, all we heard was the Celtics are going to run. They're going to run. And through 3 or 4 games, they're in the bottom 5 of the NBA in pace. Where is this supposed offense gone?
It's hard to run when you can't get a defensive rebound. I think that's just how it's going to be. And Celtics have been actually pretty good at forcing turnovers. They were fifth going into last night's game before forcing, I think, 13 turnovers against the Pelicans. But like they have been an absolute disaster on the defensive glass. The game against New Orleans was really the first time that they were able to hold their own in that area, and they go ahead and win by 30. Like I think it's just going to be so important for them to make sure you grab defensive rebounds and you're able to then get out and go. Then, give Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, Jalen Brown opportunities in the open court. But like this roster is not built to defensive rebound. It's not, and Joe's going to play some really small lineups that's going to put them in some precarious positions, maybe build some strong bones, and I think like that's going to be one of the absolute key areas for them is just can you grab rebounds, can you finish possessions. The end of the Pistons game was just an absolute disaster in that regard, and it cost them the game. And that's just they're going to have to figure it out without Jason Tatum, without all the front court talent they lost. It's a problem,
Yeah,
and
if you're going
it's
to
hurt their transition too.
yeah, if you're going to open up space for guys like White and Pritchard, though, they're going to have to come through. And Pritchard, I don't know if he's struggling with having so much more attention being paid to him after a couple of years in the league, and is obviously his increased role right now. But last night you saw him come through. He had a big bucket laid after getting his own board, and it's so much of it is going to depend on these guys. Derek White, I'm not so worried about, but yeah, with guys like Pritchard, okay, they're going to be thrust into this role, and you're going to have to come through. And as much as he did in the past, I'm not talking about half-court shots at the end of a quarter. I'm talking about consistently in-game minutes and coming through in those spots when they are running plays for him to get open.
Yeah, and it's a different situation for him because like when you move up in the hierarchy, it's not just that, teams realize it's not just that you have to do more. It's like you have a better defender on you. Like you are the focal point of the game plan, or one of the focal points of the game plan. I think it's just going to be an adjustment process for him, for Derek White, get those guys more efficient. Obviously, 3-point shooting wise, especially, they've kind of struggled here early in the season. But other than the 3-point shooting, I think Peyton Pritchard has approached it well. We've seen him get to his mid-range game, create, little short fadeaways. He's been, hasn't turned the ball over, had 8 assists last night. So there are a lot of signs that he's kind of adapting to it. The bigger problem to me is like, what happens when Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, Jaylen Brown aren't on the court? And that's when things have gotten ugly so far. Anthony Simons was great off the bench last night. Yeah. If he continues to shoot like that, it's going to be a big deal for the Celtics. But yeah, I think early on, especially as White and Pritchard become used to, having all of that defensive attention on them, it's just going to be a little tougher than they're used to.
One of the problems for the rebounding, Jay, is the lack of depth for their bigs. I mean, I guess Neemias Queta has kind of cemented himself as a starter, but after that, it looks bad. It looks really bad.
You weren't sold by Luka Garza with 3 threes last night?
No.
Taking a charge?
He stinks.
He's got that athleticism. I mean, he's up and down that court like nobody's business. He's a gazelle out there.
Former National Player of the Year in college.
I ran across him in college. Yes, I was aware of his presence. Him being, they talked about him from time to time.
Iowa, right?
He's a Big Ten kid.
I worry about.
He did some damage against Michigan State. I won't lie to you.
I worry about him when I watch him run. I'm like, that doesn't look right.
That's what I'm saying. You can tell why he scored like 50 points a game in college and was a second-round pick.
Just as big an issue to me as what the Celtics have gotten from their center so far is that they don't really have a power forward. Like Josh Minott starting there, I think gives them some more size and athleticism. But when you were starting Sam Hauser, Chris Boucher, who had a promising preseason, he was down to 3 minutes against the Pelicans. Like you're just playing a lot of wings, a lot of guards, and not a lot of size. They went from having 4 big men, including Neemias Queta, who you could throw out there and be comfortable with, and now you don't really have that anymore. And so I just think it's the lack of size at every position on top of the production at the center position that's going to be really challenging for them to figure out.
Well, I think for them getting that win last night, like you said, Jay, was big just to kind of get over that hurdle. But, going up against teams that can put, legitimate 5 starters out there and have some kind of depth to them, I don't know how they fare in a bunch of these games that they have coming up, presumably until Tatum is back in the lineup come February, March, whenever it is. I mean, I don't see guys developing quick enough or them figuring out a way to really make this work.
Well, as Jay said, I mean, you look at the next 3 games on the schedule, they could be 1-6. I mean, that's what we may be staring down here before long.
Well, I just think the whole and look, Peyton Pritchard's a great story. I just think that the whole idea is like, what are you going to do when Peyton Pritchard's not on the court? Doesn't spell, a championship run. I mean, if you don't look at him and go, even though Austin Reeves, he's white and he's really been scoring points. So who knows?
Games, he's been big.
So who knows? I mean, who knows what's going on? All right. I should say not only white, but a North American white guy. So, I mean, we got
to be specific.
Because Luka is obviously scoring 50 points on great occasions. All right. Listen, Jay King, thank you. We always appreciate it. You're the best. Read all of Jay King's stuff in The Athletic, as he is Johnny on the spot there. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it. And Ugo. That's what we'll be saying. You've started a new
Appreciate
thing.
you guys.
For the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.